The first time I reached the end of the Santa Monica Pier, I started crying. A few days before, Stephen and I had arrived in Los Angeles to visit my friend Kelly and her husband John, who had moved there from Delaware. I missed Kelly terribly and was excited. John, who's Mexican-American, grew up in LA, so for him this was a return home. Our first stop was the Getty Center. You can see panoramic views of all of LA from up there, from its white marble balconies. You can see all the way down to the beach. Even though it was the middle of October, it was warm and sunny the way it feels on a fall day near sunset on the East Coast. As the wind picked up, John pointed out the blue of the ocean. Kelly laughed and made fun of his grand gesture. At dusk, they took us to see the Hollywood sign from Griffith Park. While Kelly and John parked the car, Stephen and I looked at the small, white, faraway letters. Stephen smiled at me, his blue eyes glistening behind his dark-rimmed glasses. He seemed happy. Maybe he's jet-lagged, I thought. John's parents married in the oldest church in L.A., Our Lady Queen of Angels Catholic Church, on the oldest street in L.A., Olvera Street. So the next morning, John and Kelly took us there. We hopped on the train and got off at Union Station, with its warm wood and Art Deco tiles. Kelly led the way, pushing her sons, Kevin and Dominic, in their two-seated stroller, by the potted birds of paradise, through a courtyard of pink bougainvillea. After the Getty, I thought I'd never see bougainvillea again. We spent 3 days with our friends and their toddler sons. Then John's father, Papa John, what they call him to differentiate the two, drove us to our hotel on the Sunset Strip, where we'd stay our last 2 days in L.A. We rarely rented cars then. We figured if we could get by without one in New York, we could get by without one anywhere, which almost never turned out to be true. When we reached the Best Western, Stephen flopped onto the bed and fell asleep. I Googled history of Sunset Boulevard and discovered the Garden of Allah. If you've heard Joni Mitchell's song, Big Yellow Taxi, you know about it. Garden of Allah was paradise. Now it's a McDonald's. It was built in 1913 by William Hay as a private residence. 6 years later, he sold it to film and stage actress Alla Nazimova, who named the estate after herself. 7 years later, just before the stock market sank, Nazimova added 25 villas and turned it into a hotel. Guests like F. Scott Fitzgerald, Ernest Hemingway, Greta Garbo, Frank Sinatra, Ava Gardner, Errol Flynn, Lauren Bacall, and Humphrey Bogart all stayed there.